Hello and welcome to IT Security Labs, and today I'm going to be talking about how I completed the OSCP exam. I'll give you information about how I prepared for the exam, how I took the exam, so kind of like a timeline, and also I'll answer a few questions that people might ask, like how does the OSCP compare to the OSCP? Is it harder, even though they're kind of difficult to compare? Do you learn something different from the OSCP, and who is it for? Above all, I'll share with you what I've learned, and I'll even show you some of the notes that I took just to show you where I am compared to before I took this exam. So if you are someone who is interested in the Offensive Security OSCP exam, this is definitely something that is for you. This will also help you for the OSCP because there's a lot of overlap between the OSCP and OSCP. So if you're going for the OSCP, also watch this video because you will definitely learn the same techniques that will help you pass and be successful and hopefully learn something better. So let's jump in. The OSCP exam, this is the PEN 300 Advanced Evasion Techniques and Breaching Defenses. This exam is usually something that you probably consider as soon as you are done with the OSCP, because there will be a lot of questions unanswered after you complete the OSCP. You will be dying to even grow and become better than what you were. So this is definitely for it. And Offensive Security here says that this will teach you to perform advanced pen tests against mature organizations and with an established security function, and focus on bypassing security mechanisms that are designed to block attacks. So think about it this way. During the OSCP, there is no focus on evading defenses. You just want to make sure that you craft payloads and that they run. In this exam, you have to actually bypass Windows Defender and antivirus that might be installed. You might also want to make sure that you craft your payloads in such a way that you bypass that. It's a 48-hour exam. It's definitely proctored. And I would say this is for everybody who is interested in learning advanced pen testing and also becoming a better red teamer, because even red teamers benefit from this. Like myself, I work in my day job as a red teamer, so even though it says it's a pen testing course, it will definitely help in red teaming engagement. So I put together some slides just to make sure that my thoughts are all kind of organized a little bit, because I can be all over the place. And this is what OSCP says the exam is all about. It teaches you to perform advanced pen tests against mature organizations, especially those that have defenses in place. So think of antivirus, EDR, or even Windows Defender enabled. You cannot just run your Metasploit payloads. You need to find a way to make sure that you bypass that so that Defender and any EDR tools or antivirus does not remove your payloads. And that's what this course will teach you. So for me, I signed up for the course back in 2022. I was part of the offsec 1 year subscription. So I had a subscription for 1 year. So I knew that I had from 2022 to June 2023 to get this done. And as you can imagine, when you have a 1 year subscription, it's easy to just say I'll do it later. And that's exactly what I did here. So in June 2022, I had access to the course. I practiced a lot on Try Hack Me, OffSec Proving Ground, Hack the Box, and I made a lot of YouTube videos. So if you follow me, you will probably see a bunch of series that I've created where I was attacking a lot of Windows machines. I actually intentionally went after Windows machines because I wanted to become better. I also set up a lot of labs in my own personal home lab environment just to make sure that I can practice. So I installed things like Elastic Security agents just to try to bypass those. I installed Wazoo agents. I even had Sysmon collecting logs just to make sure that I know what happens on the operating system. So I would say most of 2022 was me practicing and making sure that things were actually up to par. During this time, I also ended up in 2023 taking the Certified Red Team Operator exam from 0 Point Security. This was amazing because the Certified Red Team Operator exam actually helped me for the OSCP. It was helpful. I'm not saying everybody needs to take this, but it's definitely something that you can consider, especially if you have never attacked Windows. It will teach you a lot about Cobalt Strike and how to use a C2 environment, and also how to create C2 profiles that bypass defense. So I would say the Certified Red Team Operator exam is not directly related to the OSCP, because it focuses on a C2 framework, which is more like red teaming side of things. And it does help as far as understanding how Active Directory works and how SQL can be exploited and all that stuff. One most important course that I took was Sector 7 Malware Dev. This was this Malware Dev Essential. Amazing. It taught me how to actually write code in C and C++ and make sure that I can actually bypass Windows Defender. So I would say this was the first course that I taken that talks about bypassing Defender and focuses 100% on creating payloads that bypass Defender. So the Sector 7 Malware Dev course was definitely helpful. It is not required though for the OSCP because the information that you learn from the Sector 7 course, it is almost the same as the information that you learn in the OSCP. So the OSCP assumes you have zero knowledge, but it helps to see it in two different formats, but it's the same information pretty much. Then in March 2023, again, I quickly started the OSCP course just a few months before June expired. So I completed these two courses and straight into the offsec OSCP course. I read the PDF document, super straightforward. I watched all the videos and I did that very quickly. I just skimmed through the whole content. Then afterwards, I started actually going into the labs. I would say by far the labs are the most important things. And I'll show you my notes here without exposing too much, but I'll show you how I did it. But I went into the labs. There's a total of, I think, 6 labs that you can complete. And if you can complete those and do them thoroughly, the exam will be a piece of cake, I would have to say. Then, of course, in June 2023, I took the exam. I passed with 130 points. I think you can get 100 points to pass. I ended up with 130. And I'll show you a timeline of my exam day just to give you an idea of how much I struggled and also how fast it was after I figured out how to get the flags. So what is my background? You may be wondering. I'm talking about taking this advanced course and also completing the OSCP and the OSCP that I completed later. What kind of background does someone like me who did this have? Well, I have the CISSP. It's not a technical course at all. Exam at all. It's just the most one that I'm proud of and excited to talk about. But I also took the OSCP. The OSCP by far prepared me for the OSCP. And I will say this, if you don't know the basics from the OSCP will be very difficult. They assume that you already know how to do SQL injection and how to identify a bunch of injection vulnerabilities or just initial access. Like privilege escalation in Linux is assumed mostly because they know that you have taken the OSCP. So do not discount the OSCP knowledge. In fact, I would say the initial access for the labs is all OSCP level knowledge. There is no gimmicks or anything advanced about how to initially break into the environment. It's only difficult when it comes to, hey, there's antivirus there. Can you bypass it? So OSCP definitely helped. Then I have the CEH master. I don't know about that. I think this one is actually going to expire. The certified ethical hacker. A lot of respect for people who take these exams. CEH definitely did not prepare me for OSCP or OSEP. It's a good certification for people who just want to get started, but I'll leave it there. The CEH is something else. Okay, let's talk about the certified red team operator. That one was really good. Like I said earlier, it will teach you how to work with Cobalt Strike, how to create the profiles, and also how to bypass defenses using a profile in Cobalt Strike. Slightly different, but good. Then, of course, the malware dev from Sector 7. Amazing course. Highly encourage people to take it. It's only like maybe $250 or $300, and it's definitely worth it. I still use my notes from this course. Even during the OSEP, I used some of my notes from the Sector 7 malware dev just to make sure that my life was easier. I also have some, CCNA cyber operations and CCNP Network Plus. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because it all compounds. I spend a lot of time understanding the networking side of things, understanding system administration, as I'll talk about in a little bit here. All this general knowledge of you being a well-rounded person who understands infrastructure and also how companies work really, really helps. What are some helpful skills that will help you be successful at this exam? you need to understand basic system administration, basic network setup. Like, you need to know what an IP address is. You need to know how networks are set up, specifically the infrastructure side of things, like what are CI/CD pipelines. Most companies nowadays are using Kubernetes, Docker, and CI/CD pipelines. This course aims to prepare you for the real world, so you can imagine they include things like that, CI/CD, and also just general infrastructure knowledge. Really, really helps. You also need to know the basics from the OSCP, hacking methodology. Having a plan, having a methodology that says, I start here and these are the things that I look at. People like Conda published hacking methodologies out there. You kind of need to have your own. You cannot just be like doing whatever. You have a plan that you can actually follow a little bit. That really helps. For me, scripting, especially being able to write a little bit of programming in C or C# was something that you definitely need to know. There is a whole series on YouTube. If you just say C# free course on YouTube, you find like 7 hours from someone who made that course. I can even link it in the description for you. I took that because I did not have C programming experience. That was huge when it came to me creating my own payloads. Because sometimes you create a payload and it doesn't work. And you need to have a plan on how to modify it. Maybe it's one part of the payload that is getting caught by Defender. And you can practice in your dev machine as well. So I would say this one here might be a little bit intimidating for a lot of people. But don't worry. I had zero experience with this and I passed on my first try. And I also learned a ton. So you definitely must check it out. See, they kind of teach you in the course, but I don't think it's enough. And to be honest, I didn't focus on that much. I kind of had prepared after Sector 7. Then, of course, the most important part is the report. This report is just going to be the same as PWK, but in this case, you need to document everything just like what you did for the OSCP. Active Directory and CI/CD, like I said, you kind of need to know these things. I practice in my own home lab. I set up the Game of Active Directory lab. I set up the Where's Hell lab. I had all kinds of Active Directory. Just make sure that you know your Active Directory. The OSEP focuses on a simulation of a real company, and almost every real company out there has some form of Active Directory or something similar, mostly Active Directory. So you can expect to be doing AD attacks. I'll be honest with you, if you practice Active Directory attacks, they're trivial. Like, exploiting domain trust and exploiting DAC sync. You can practice a few things, and that will be about it. Most of what they teach you in the course will teach you how to attack Active Directory. If you're unsure on how to do this, I have a whole series of Game of Active Directory on my channel. Please go ahead and follow on that. It will definitely help you, especially when you're going for the OSEP. Here's a summary of what we need to do. Learn Linux and Windows, just the basic stuff. Make sure that your programming is solid. Hack as much as you can. Most importantly, write some notes. Take very good notes. Document what you're talking about. And make sure that you take the OSCP and OSEP. If you're going to go for the exam, here's what I say. Make sure that your methodology is solid, meaning know what to look for. Then use your own Kali if you can. If you use the same Kali machine during the labs and learning OSEP, use the same machine. If you have payloads that are already saved on your machine, if you have a way that things work, just use that. Don't use theirs or create a new one. Documentation from the 6 labs is a must. You just finish those. They are very, very helpful. They will teach you the AD stuff. If you forget, you can just go back and check how you did the attack. Pretty much the same kind of stuff. You can use public exploit and edit them for initial access and attack vectors. That's OSCP basic level information. Definitely check it out as well. Things like tunneling and also being able to transfer your files, very important. The reason why I mentioned that here is because a lot of people struggle with what I call the basics, and I used to struggle with this as well, like creating your tunnels to go from pivot from one network to another, being able to transfer your payload from your Kali to the victims, and also making sure that you can seamlessly move laterally in an environment using your, in this case, Metasploit C2 framework. That will really, really help. In fact, I want to say, if you're going to be taking the OSEP, Metasploit is what I use. I've seen other people use other C2 frameworks out there. Metasploit is 100% allowed anyway. So you can just go in there and get it all done. Know the common ways of attacking things, things, basic Linux privilege escalation, basic injection vulnerabilities out there. And if you have all these things done, you should be able to relax and just know that the exam will be there and you can actually get it done. So what was the exam like for me? I started the exam at around 9 a.m. and by 10:15, I had my first flag. So initial access was not a problem. I mean, a little bit, but it was not a problem at all. Being able to kick the door and land on a machine, not a big deal. Mostly because there's multiple ways. Usually there's 2 ways to get initial access. And if you know the OSCP level, and also if you know how to craft initial payloads, initial access payloads that bypass the defender, you should be good here. I'm talking about being able to write a payload that if it's delivered, someone clicks on it, and if they click on it, it does not trip defender, because sometimes defender will be there. After I got my first flag by 10:15, by noon, I had 3 flags, so I was feeling pretty good. I was pretty comfortable. But of course, from 12:30 p.m. up to 6 p.m., nothing. I mean, I tried a lot of things. I just couldn't get anything done. So I took a break and I came back. And then by the time I came back, by midnight, I had 3 more flags. And I had compromised, I don't remember how many machines. I can't tell you actually how many machines you will be compromising. But I had compromised a bunch of machines, so 6 flags. So I knew that I needed 4 more flags to go. But from midnight to like 1:30, I had nothing and I was tired, making mistakes. So I went to bed. I woke up by around 7 a.m. Actually, by 6, I was just nervous. I wanted to make sure that this is done. And when I came back, the reason why I ended up with 130 points is because I found another way. I woke up and I was like, wait a second. I think I was poking on this thing here. I need to look at it again. And I found a whole separate environment that was separate from the one that I had attacked. And that also led me a whole different path. And I got 6 more flags. By that time, I had passed. So I didn't have to go and complete the first path that I had. And I didn't have to complete the second path that I had all the way. I had already gotten the passing flags. So without telling you too much, there is a couple ways you can actually go about this. And I think it's always going to be like that. So knowing that I had the flags, I came back, I messed around with the environment just to make sure that I get domain admin and things like that. But I did not actually fully compromise like the domain trust and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have to get that far, just so you know. But this was very, very interesting. So after I had my flags, I wrote my report. Report was kind of fun, putting it all together. Made sure that my report was good. I used some templates from online. And then afterwards, I submitted it. After 3 or 4 days, they said I had passed. So it was that quick and also amazing. The exam compared to the OSCP, I would say this was more enjoyable. This was more fun. I felt more prepared and I felt actually like I was doing something. When I did the OSCP, I was surviving. I was just like struggling, stressing. On this one, I was actually pausing and thinking. I took a lot of breaks when I was taking the OSCP. I would, if I got stuck, I would just take a walk or something like that. This was very, very good and well enjoyable compared to the OSCP. The preparation methods are almost the same. The skills that you need for the OSCP are even way better and higher, but this is definitely something you should consider. So what other useful resources should you use? Definitely spin up your own lab. This is just about evading Defender and antivirus. So the more you can practice in your own lab, the better. I encourage you to have elastic security, elastic EDR without machine learning. Don't enable machine learning. You'll not get a chance with machine learning, especially if you're just getting started. I tried it with machine learning. It's a pain. If you really want, make sure that you have Sysmon installed. Understand the events that you're generating, because the more you understand how you are interacting with the operating system, the more you know, oh, Windows Defender doesn't like it when I use PowerShell to call an HTA file that subsequently downloads another PowerShell and execute it. That's just suspicious. You know that because your EDR in this case, Elastic Security or even Wazoo with Sysmon, will tell you like, hey, you generated all these events here. And the less events you try to generate, the better your evasion is going to be. So a lot of running in memory is going to be what you're going to be doing here. Try hack me the red team path. Here's how to create shellcodes. It's not enough, but it's definitely a lot of really good practice, especially on just the generic path. Try hack me also has the offensive security path that I highly encourage everybody, whether OSCP or OSCP, to take. Then, of course, hack the box. Try to do a lot of insane machines. I'll show you in a little bit here a few of the machines that I did some write-ups on. OffSec Proving Grounds has some machines. Just make sure that you find the hard or insane machines in OffSec Proving Grounds and do those as well. And if you want maybe a list, let me know in the comments. I'll probably go back and give you a list, but just let me know in the comments which machines if you want that list or not. Otherwise, IPSec was very helpful. So going to ipsec.rocks and just looking up some of the machines that he has done, and also the methodology and the thought process. You will never go wrong following IPSec when you're doing hack the box machines, because you definitely learn a lot on how to think. You will not learn how to evade EDR all the way. There's like 2 videos that IPSec made that were detailed on that area that I followed, but you learn how to think. That's where I learned most of what I know. But just on sake, Hacksploit, my YouTube channel, of course, I have a ton of content on that. And the Cyber Mentor has some videos from back then when they had Active Directory attacks. So if you are like brushing on your skills, these are some useful resources to use. All right. So now that we are done, let's jump into my notes. I'll show you just a little bit what I can without messing with you, without exposing too much. So for example, when I say do hack the box, things like intelligence, this machine here, very, very important that we go and complete insane machine. This machine, I did it because somebody had suggested it. The most important thing is complete the 6 labs. You will notice that I did detailed walkthroughs on like, okay, here's how you break in. I don't actually want to show you too much there. I'll just show you like, hey, I was able to scan the network, and I took a lot of notes on that. I also took just the course material. There's a bunch of notes that I took that are in here. There's a YouTube series on C#. Notice here is where I was taking some notes. And here is the series. Let me open it for you. So you want to learn C#, but you are curious.
Step into Wix Studio, the platform.
This is the series from freecodecamp.org. You will definitely learn a ton if you can follow this. If you have no C# knowledge, this is the course that I took. Then of course there was this GitHub repo from DevCon workshop that I followed, and the slides very helpful, especially if you are just learning C#. I used a bunch of all these resources just for my C programming. I have the exam folder here. I wouldn't dare open it, but here I have some general hacking notes. I think I can share with you these. Here's some macros. You can use something like badass macro to generate macros that can bypass Defender. This is a very good tool actually. And then for persistence and pivoting, I use things like Shadow and Chisel, Windows privilege escalation, because you still need to previous. I had some, Prince Spooler, Power View, file transfer, just the basic stuff. So I was actually prepared. So as you can see, taking some notes here, very, very important, especially with Active Directory and things like that. Here I had some like tools like, Snuffler. I didn't actually use any of these, but it was nice to have them here. The most important thing for us is make sure that you complete the lab 1 all the way up to 6. Those labs, I cannot emphasize them enough. They'll be very helpful. Then in Try Hack Me, ensure that you complete, if you can, the red team path. It does come with evasion and techniques. I did about 85%. By the time I did this, I was at 100%. Then they added more content, so I need to come and finish. But you also need to complete the offensive security path. So offensive pen testing, this one. very important that we complete this, especially for those who are going for the OSCP. It will teach you a whole lot on the methodology and just making sure that you're comfortable with the basics. That way you can open up your brain cells for the advanced stuff. So this is definitely something to look for if you want to do this. Then, of course, the red team operations from 0 point, highly encourage this one. You will learn a lot, especially if you're going to be a red teamer using C2 frameworks. This is a very, very good course. And the Sector 7 malware dev course is the last one that I also mentioned earlier. This is the one, the malware development essential. It's a very good one. I even taken the second one, but I cannot emphasize enough. If you are serious about evasion and writing payloads and just being comfortable with it, they will literally walk you through the process step by step. And they'll even give you sample codes that you can keep and even use in the future. So I still modify my payloads from here because they don't bypass the latest defender, but changing things in those payloads and changing how they're loading. For example, just last week, I used an unsafe method instead of a safe method, and boom, it was working. So make sure to check it out if it's within your budget. Otherwise, that was my experience going for the OSEP. If you're interested in more, or if you want to follow along, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. I plan on sharing even more information about my learning journey and also how I've grown. If you watch my channel, you'll notice that I started as a system administrator, and now I think being able to complete the OSEP was one of those things that is a confirmation that hard work really paid off. So thank you for being here, and I hope to see you next time.